Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to talk to you guys about 10 common, uncommons, and rares that you guys need from set 11. Now, the fact that rares are not automatically foil, they're much more in line with picking up commons and uncommons. They're very, very cheap most of the time. So these are going to be some really hot pickups that you guys need to grab for set 11. Just some really essential commons and uncommons you'll need for certain strategies. We'll talk about it in today's video. Guys, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. If you want to help the channel out, there are tons of ways down in the description to do so. Make sure to check out the Gemmy app and the Patreon for your one-on-one coaching as well as your crossword competitive content. Make sure to check out Dex Protection for your sleeves, deck boxes, binders, all that good stuff. And finally, go to TCG Player if you want to buy or pre-order the cards you see in today's video. All that stuff really helps out a lot, guys. I do appreciate each and every one of you that helps the channel out in that way. That being said, let's get started with our first pick. So guys, first thing you do from set 11, go online, order yourselves a playset of all the new super combos for all the different colors. Every single color in the game is getting one. They are like pennies a piece to pick up. It's such a good investment because these super combos pretty much power creep the oldest super combos in the game, which basically say if your leader is X color, draw one card, gain 10,000 power. Now, I won't say this is like the perfect super combo for every scenario, because keep in mind that with these super combos, your leader has to be the specific color, your life has to be at 4 or less, and all your energy has to be the mono color of that particular, leader color, right? So for example, this Vegeta, your leader has to be blue, life's 4 or less, and all of your energy has to be blue. Now, I do believe that, if you have multicolored, like blue-yellow or blue-green energy charge, for example, and then like subsequent blue energy charge after that, that should work. That should be pretty much akin to like the infinite attack rares. So that should work like that. But the thing here is you get a lot of value because you're putting the worst card in your hand at the bottom of your deck and you're drawing 2 cards. But again, like, they won't be the best for every scenario. It's not like you're going to automatically jam 4 copies of this in every single deck that you play. I still think, for example, like in blue, Zamasu Sacred Disbelief is probably the best super combo you can play, and that probably goes for yellow as well. There are going to be certain scenarios, like when you're playing an aggro deck, whether that's blue or yellow, and now that we have like Goten back in the format, you could possibly be playing some sort of yellow aggressive swap strategy, maybe like with the yellow Gotenks leader. So if you're doing that, you probably don't want Zamasu Sacred Disbelief. You probably want the Krillin that is more in line with this Vegeta super combo right here. But regardless, super cheap pickup, super important investment. I think if you're playing Vegex as well, I think the new Vegeta super combo coming out in set 11, I think is going to pretty much automatically replace Bibbidi, because now that Bibbidi only gets a maximum 15k power, it's not really that much better than any super combo that draws a card. And the cool thing about the new Vegeta super combo that bottom decks the worst card in your hand, you can put your time agents back into the deck, you can put your unison back into the deck, so this way you have a better chance of milling them, and then it'll just sit there dead in your hand. So definitely highly recommend picking up all the different super combos there. Next up, in the same vein, go and pick up all the new blockers. I believe every color except black got this. Basically a 1-drop blocker that says if you have the corresponding unison card in play, when this card's played, draw 1. What kind of strategies love cards like this? Well, of course, you have Dredge Goku. When you block with a card, if any battle card you control is removed from the field, you get to awaken early there, which is pretty nice. But I think in that deck in particular, you're going to want to play your unison first and get the value out of drawing. I don't think the turn 1 awaken is too important. I mean, we've seen Dredge Goku kind of fade in and out of the format. I don't think the board wipe effect is all that crazy, but maybe certain scenarios it will pop up and you'll want that turn 1 awaken. Definitely you have to feel out the matchup in that regard, but I think like playing your Bardock Unison, for example, and then playing this down, I think is gonna be a lot of value. Of course, Vegito loves the new Oob 1-drop blocker because Vegito's all about blockers. He turns any blocker into a draw 1, so when your blocker already says draw 1, Vegito is turning that into a lot of value. So you could play, for example, a Dr. Rhoda turn 1 to awaken, and the remainder of the game with an extra energy from Zeno, let's just say, you could be playing either the Android 16 Mechanical Prowess, or you could be paying 1 to play the new Oob, get some card draw. And that's going to help out Vegito a lot because Vegito actually sometimes has an issue with hand size. You kind of rely on getting your life later in the game because you awaken so early and you don't really blow up your hand size. But decks that can like crit you down or play hand control on you, they're going to give you a hard time. So having Oob to cycle and actually plus now is actually going to be quite good for that deck. In my opinion. I think it's pretty obvious to say, actually. I shouldn't say my opinion. Next up, we have Piccolo, Bad Omen. This is going to be a pretty important card. We're looking at yellow Skillless, and that's going to be for yellow Gohan, as well as yellow Skillless Bonds of Friendship Goku, right? So 1-drop auto, add a card from light to hand. When this card's played, look at the top 7 cards of your deck. play up to 1 yellow skillless battle card, the energy cost of 1 among them, then shuffle your deck. So if you really need the excess Self-Awaken, I think it's a really important card. Now in Yellow Gohan, for example, the leader offers you optional Self-Awaken, so this might not be as important as, you know, it might be in Bonds of Friendship Goku, but the nice thing about that is it does help you take life early. So if your opponent's not attacking you in skillless Goku, for example, you could play 1 or 2 copies of this and then get awakened at your 6th life, because this fetches a skillless from the deck. So it's kind of like an all-in-one awaken package, both taking life and getting you a skillless to put in the drop area for your leader's, you know, 6 or less life awakening condition. The other cool thing you could do with this in like a skillless Goku deck is you could play this, pull out the 1-drop Catapesla from your top 7 search, and then play that and potentially do like the Catapesla evolve chain on top of that. Again, being a common, I definitely think it's something you're gonna just want to pick up just to have it. So next up, guys, Son Gohan's Baby's Minion. This is a rare, but again, it's not a guaranteed foil, so it should be relatively affordable. At most, I can see this being like a $1 to $2 card just because of how easy it should be to pull. So with Son Gohan Baby's Minion, it is a 3-drop counterattack that is almost like a topo, but instead of discarding 2 cards to attack, your opponent has to bottom deck 1 card in their hand to attack. Now, it's a little different than topo. It costs more and it rips less cards from their hand, but the way blue is, guys, blue is a deck that, or an archetype rather, that just plays with an abundance of energy. You're either ramping or you're untapping infinite energy on your opponent's turn with like Senzu Bean, UI Kamehameha, Dimension Magic, Whis Coercion, all those different types of cards. So Son Gohan Baby's Minion actually isn't all that expensive. You know, needless to say, in the baby deck, for example, it's actually a 2-cost counterattack. But regardless, I still think this is a counterattack that a lot of blue decks are either going to main deck or side deck. So I definitely think it's a good pickup for that scenario. 3 cost in blue. Now, if this was green or maybe like black, I would say 3 costs is pretty expensive. But again, blue, constantly untapping energy. I don't think it's too costly for a color scheme like that. So I definitely recommend picking up a playset of Son Gohan Baby's Minion if you are a blue player or thinking about playing blue. And sort of in the same vein, Vegeta Ready to Rumble. It's a similar card. It's a little bit different. I made an argument for this card in a previous video, and I'll make that same argument here. This is a 4-drop blocker, 20k counterattack. Play the card. When this card's played, your opponent can't attack for the turn unless they place 1 of the energy in the drop area. Now, this is going to be a harder floodgate than Gohan, because a lot of times with Gohan, even though it's cheaper and that makes it a little bit of a better rate, if your opponent needs to keep attacking, sometimes getting rid of 1 card isn't going to be the worst thing in the world. A lot of times Gohan will make your opponent skip their turn, but when it doesn't, when they still feel like they can push through for damage, Ready to Rumble comes in and kind of fills that slot. Now, of course, for kind of like a crazier effect of making your opponent lose their energy, you're paying more energy for this card, and that makes sense, right? And again, you could make the argument of this card being very, very energy costly, but I want to, you know, recommend that you guys take a look at UI Goku the Unstoppable. That was another 4-cost counterplay that people played a lot back in the format it was more relevant in. So I do want to make that argument just to say that Vegeta Ready to Rumble isn't the most expensive counterattack we've seen blue decks play. It's honestly not that unreasonable in my opinion. I do think if you're looking for a very, very steep floodgate to make your opponent stop attacking you for a turn, I think Vegeta Ready to Rumble is going to be a great option for that. So definitely pick up a playset in my opinion. Next up, Gotenks Return of the Reaper of Justice, 3-drop 19k unique, activate battle if your leader's mono blue, and you have a blue unison in play this card from your hand in rest mode. So I would say pick this card up just for the pure fact that this is a free 19k beater. You just activate battle on your opponent's turn, you get it in play for free. That's pretty strong. We know at this point now, free cards that you don't have to pay energy for are generally good cards. Needless to say though, this will synergize well with our Gogeta unisons that we have in blue, both the Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta unison and the SS3 Gogeta unison. Both of those unisons say if you have a blue Saiyan in rest mode, if your leader's a mono blue Saiyan, your leader does not take damage. So this card is fully meant to synergize with those 2 unisons, so definitely pick it up for that reason if you want to explore that route, because I do think that could be a route that may potentially one day be meta worthy. Like for example, if we're in a super aggressive format, the Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta unison is not super expensive, so you could play that for 2 energy and then activate battle this on your opponent's turn, and then their aggro onslaught is, you know, pretty much redirected to this card. And being a 19k, that's pretty nice there, so they might have to combo into killing that. But regardless, I think just for the fact that it's a free 19k beater, you should pick it up. Possibly good to experiment with those Gogeta unisons. Next up, S3 Son Goku, Man on a Mission, another rare, but once again, not a guaranteed foil, so should be pretty easy to pick up. It's just a 6-drop Overwhelm, critical double strike. It's really the first card of its kind in the sense that it is a more expensive Overwhelm, but it's a critical double strike. Critical double strike has always been a keyword combination that has struck fear in many hearts in Dragon Ball Super. So I do think it's worth picking up. I think it's a great overall actually to like finish off games or get you to that point to finish off games in aggro decks like Red Broly, maybe even like Dark Broly, for example. Just overall this out, use up whatever of your drop area that you don't need, and then just put on a really big shot with 20k double strike crit. I think it's definitely a card worth picking up and having a playset of. Next up, Haru Haru Shun Shun Sister. 1-drop, permanent during your turn. If you have a black unison in play, this card gets plus 10,000 power and double strike. Black finally gets a 1-drop double strike with a slight upside. It doesn't have to take life in order to gain double strike, which can be looked at as an upside, but the kind of downside is you do have to have a black unison in play. Regardless, this is pretty much black's equivalent to all the 1-drop double strikers that every other color in the game has. So I definitely recommend picking this up as a play set, especially considering it's a common. This thing will be pennies to pick up. Definitely seems like a solid pickup. Deborah Dark Gambit, 1-drop, activate main, pay a green. If your leader card is green, you discard this card from your hand. Choose one card in your opponent's battle area with energy cost of 1 and the field skill, and place it in the owner's drop area. Another form of field spell removal. This thing is pretty good because it's an activate main that your opponent cannot interact with. We do have Piccolo Arena Record, for example. That card is great, but if you really need to play around your opponent's counterplays and things of that nature, this card is the card you're going to want for that scenario. Pretty good pickup in my opinion. Golomite, Beast of the Planet Vampa. Blocker auto if your leader is red when this card is used in a combo. If your opponent has 3 or less energy, choose one of your opponent's battle cards with 3,000 power or more and KO it. So you'll notice here I have Heavenly Wizard Demigra on the side. This is basically I wouldn't even say power creep because it's not totally better than Demigra, but it's basically an on-color version of Demigra that you can play. So Demigra, for example, it does ignore Barrier, which is a slight downside to Golomite, but Golomite being on-color and being a common card, if you didn't play during the time that this released in set 4, Heavenly Wizard Demigra, you can potentially just pick up Golomite for your red decks. Cool thing about playing this in the side deck in Broly as well, if you need it, is that this is grabbable off Planet Vampa. So if you're like in the mirror match, for example, or up against Dark Broly and you need this card, you could potentially find it off Planet Vampa, combo it, pop whatever is giving you a problem. I think that's pretty cool. But guys, this is what I want to talk about today for the 10 cards you should pick up from set 11. Very cheap to do so. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.